Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soberless channel, and this is my list of top 5 Jordan basketball shoes that you can get right now. And of course, this is just my opinion and this is just like my list. So if you guys have a different list, tell us what your list would be down in the comment section below. So yeah, since this is my list and these are basically like shoes that I like to play in, I want to share with you guys what I like to have in my basketball shoes. So basically the gist of it is that I like to have an overall like light minimal shoe with, I guess, like okay cushioning. Obviously if it has really nice cushioning, that's a plus, right? But if it has like okay cushioning, like it's low to the ground with adequate impact protection and it's overall responsive, then I don't really mind it, you know? Although I do love to have like crazy bounce or like a lot of compression sometimes in my cushioning setup, it's not really needed. And then as far as the materials go, I also don't really need like crazy quality materials. I mean, obviously that would be a plus, but as long as it's a pretty thin, minimal material and it conforms to your foot well, I really don't mind it either. So this is my top 5 list for best Jordan shoes that you can get right now. If you guys want to copy any of these shoes, I try to leave a link in the description box, but let's get it started off with number 5. And that's the Why Not 0.3 coming in at 130 bucks, but I've seen some colorways on sale for like 90 or 100 bucks. And like, I mean, aesthetically, it's definitely probably the worst in my opinion on this entire list, but it's a pretty damn solid performer. The traction, I mean, the durability is very bad, right? It has super soft rubber. Do not play with it outdoors. Even on the indoor court, I did have issues. But the bite is really nice, right? You got to break it in a little bit, but once you do, you have a solid bite. The cushioning setup is also really nice. If you like to have a cushioning setup where it's just like you go like in a straight line, then obviously that cushioning setup is perfect. You have a very smooth heel to toe transition. You have an incredibly big zoom unit that's super bouncy in the forefoot. The heel, there's really nothing. The foam is kind of soft. I wish they would put a softer cushion, but it's not a huge deal. And you just get that extra bounce when you're like going to the hoop, right? So that feels nice. The materials aren't the best as far as like quality goes, but they get the job done. It's like soft on foot and it's pretty minimal. Moving on to number 4, and that's the Jordan 34, and that's going for 165 bucks. So this shoe is the most expensive shoe on this list, but then it's also an incredible performer. I really like playing in that shoe. The traction is awesome with that herringbone. It's pretty durable. I wouldn't say it's the most durable outsole you can get, but it's definitely not horrible like the 0.3. The cushioning setup is also really nice. You get a really large volume zoom in the forefoot that feels really bouncy, and it's like your entire forefoot. It's not one of those where it's like a small one that's like kind of like on the ball of your foot. It's a zoom unit that basically covers the entire forefoot, and that feels nice. But there's 2 things that I don't really like about that shoe, which is pretty minor, but then the other shoes that are like number 1, number 2, number 3 do have, is that the Jordan 34 is like not that flexible, you know, in the forefoot. It's actually pretty stiff. So for me personally, I like to have a very smooth heel to toe transition, and I guess like it is overall pretty smooth because of the shape. Like in the heel, you have a nice curved shape as well as in the forefoot, but that stiffness in the forefoot, it just makes it not as smooth as the other shoes on this list. So that's why it's a little bit lower, just in my opinion. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people don't mind that, but for me, it's just a little minor thing, as well as the heel cushioning, right? The heel cushioning, there is a zoom unit, which is pretty nice. You can kind of feel it like underneath your heel, but the actual like midsole is super stiff and it doesn't really compress really at all. So when you do like super hard heel strikes, it doesn't feel great. But obviously, I mean, you're not supposed to be landing on your heel anyway. I do it sometimes, and I'm sure there's people that like never do it at all. So if that's the case, then obviously that's not really a huge deal. The materials though are super thin, very minimal, like one of the most minimal shoes like in Jordan's entire line. And also in my opinion, this might be one of my favorite shoes aesthetically on this list, like top 2. So that's the Jordan 34. Moving on to number 3 would be the Westbrook One Take, and that's going for 100 bucks. And I would say it's better than the 0.3. So the traction is really nice. I would say it even has a better bite than the 0.3, even though it's using like the same pattern. I'm guessing like they use a different rubber compound. The cushioning is also really nice. The forefoot zoom unit is a little bit smaller than the 0.3, but it's a top-loaded forefoot zoom unit, and you can feel the zoom like right underneath your foot, which feels great. Also, the foam in the heel is pretty soft, so that feels nice, and that feels a little bit better to me than the Jordan 34. And then the materials are really nice. Like for $100, it's way better in quality than the Jordan 34, right? It's like a really nice like textile knit material. It's a little bit thicker than I would like, but it's really cozy and comfortable on foot. Aesthetically though, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's definitely not one of my favorite, but it's a damn good performer for only $100. All right, moving on to number 2 is going to be the Jordan React Elevation. And this shoe has been worn by Luka Doncic, like in the playoffs. And that's like the main shoe that he's been wearing. He hasn't really been wearing the Jordan 34 as much. He's mostly been playing in the React Elevation. And $120, I guess, is like on the border of budget and mid-tier pricing. And that's a damn nice shoe to play in. The traction is good. The cushioning setup, I thought was gonna be like kind of weird, you know, because there's just so much caging for that React in the heel. It's like full-on React in the heel, right? And it's heavily caged, but it's actually really nice. And also, surprisingly, you're pretty damn low to the ground, right? Even though it doesn't look like you will be, you're actually very low to the ground. The forefoot zoom unit feels like it's top loaded. It feels great. You get that extra little bounce in the forefoot. Obviously, it's not as big as like the 0.3 forefoot zoom unit or the Jordan 34 zoom unit, but it's like that zoom unit that's like on the ball of your foot, which feels great. The heel cushioning is also probably one of the best in this entire list. I don't know, like Jordan brand really doesn't like heel cushioning, which is weird. They like to put a lot of like cushioning, or I guess bounce in the forefoot. I guess kind of neglect the heel a little bit, which is not a bad thing. It all depends on your play style, but I feel like it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of compression, and that's what they actually did in the React Elevation. That React isn't the craziest, but you definitely get a little bit of compression, and heel strikes definitely don't hurt as much as like in the other shoes. So the React Elevation has really good cushioning. The materials aren't the best though. I would say it's like probably one of the worst in this list. It's definitely not horrible though, but it's like a little stiff. It feels a little glued down, like on foot. It's definitely not the softest material, but I guess it conforms to your foot pretty well. And it's a thin material, so it's not a huge deal or anything. Like I didn't really mind it all too much. But I would say it's probably not one of the nicest materials that you can get on this list. And support and lockdown in that shoe is phenomenal. And also it's a pretty good looking shoe in my opinion. So the React Elevation, the performance, you definitely get top tier performance from that shoe. Moving on to number 1. And sadly, it's not available on Nike.com for some reason. But I've seen like only a few sizes available on like Finish Line or Eastbay or like Champs. Hopefully it's not sold out by the time this video goes out. But yeah, the Jordan Jumpman Diamond Low or the mid. Obviously, I prefer lows. I like to feel a little bit more freedom in my ankle, you know, like ankle mobility. But obviously, if you like the mid and you like to have a little bit more ankle support, go with the mid. It retailed for $120. It might be on sale, and also GOAT is an option as well if you guys really want to get the shoe, because it's one of my favorite shoes to play in, right? So the traction is incredible. I remember having to break it in a little bit, but once I did, the traction was really good. The cushioning setup is also very nice. Like all the cushioning setups on this list feel pretty similar. It's a large volume zooming in the forefoot. Heel, I don't think there's really anything. You get a little bit of compression because the Phylon is like on the softer side, but you have like all that caging on the lateral side, so there's a little bit of compression, but you definitely feel a good amount of bounce in the forefoot. The material is super nice though. You get like a textile material and a little bit of mesh as well. And I would say the Jumpman Diamond Low aesthetically for me is one of my favorites on this list, I guess, besides the Jordan 34. So yeah, that's basically my list. Jordan brand's been killing it. I mean, as far as tech goes, the tech isn't crazy. I wish they would implement like new tech. Remember like in the Jordan 29, like the 30s, they would be like, oh yeah, there's a new unlock zoom and it's incredible and we have this new knit and blah blah blah, you know. But now it's just like, you know, here's the shoe. I mean, it's dope, it's a great performer, but I wish they would, you know, put a little bit more tech or like new stuff into their shoes, or maybe they've been developing some new tech or something as far as like R&D goes. But as far as performance goes, they've been killing it, and basically all of their shoes that they have like that are out are solid performers. So basically you're good to go if you get any of these shoes. Just my favorite is the Jumpman Diamond Low and the Jordan React Elevation. So yeah, again, if you guys want to cop any of these shoes, I'll try to leave a link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.